What is up, guys? It's DDP. This is just an impromptu video, basically. I pretty much decided that I didn't want to completely wait until 1 o'clock or 7 o'clock for the two shows I was advertising earlier. This is just a general kind of video to kind of get my thoughts out there. So before I dive in, I'm going to give a little bit of time to let chat box fill up a little bit. But once we get some people in here, we'll get going in a couple minutes. Let me actually find some music or something I can play for you guys here while we wait. Let's see. Media source. Make sure I get something that's open rights, open source, whatever. That doesn't sound like what it is. Alright. So. Yo, what's up, Gleh? Cowboy Kingdom, what is up, guys? Alright, looks like we got about 8 people in chat here. So, let me check here. I want to make sure are you guys able to hear me? I'm not sure if the background music's playing or not. I want to mute that as I actually dive into the video here. So let me know in that. I'll pull up the stream as well for what you guys see. So as I was saying before, I don't know who all was in here and who wasn't. This is not the 1 o'clock or 7 o'clock show that I was talking about earlier. Yeah, I can't catch them, yeah. It looks, at least for real, now that DeAndre Jordan will be a Maverick. Background music's playing or not, I want to mute that as I actually dive into the video here. Just make sure this is good, and I'm going to let me know in that. I'll pull up the stream as well for what you guys see. All right, cool. Everything's look good. So as I was saying before, I don't know. At 1 o'clock later today, I will have a live show. This is not with the 1 o'clock or 7 o'clock show that I was talking about earlier. Dallas prospect. Yeah, I can't catch him. And I'll also have on Phantom Zone, at least for real. Now DeAndre Jordan will be some good insight as far as the background music's playing or not. I want to mute that as I actually dive into the video here. Make sure it's good. And Tony guys as well with the Spurs pull up the stream as well for what you guys see. Cool. For the past few years, so I know. So as I was saying before, I don't know. At 1 o'clock later today, I will have a live show. But in that regard, it looks like even the 1 o'clock or 7 o'clock show that I was talking about earlier. Prospect and Kawhi I can't catch him. And I'll also have on Phantom Zone. So that'll be for real. Now DeAndre Jordan will be a insight as far as the background music. I'm assuming more developers are going to mute that as I actually dive into the video here. ESPN Tony guys as well. I'll pull up the stream as well for what you guys see. Cool. For the past few years, so I know. So as I was saying before, I don't know. At 1 o'clock later today, I will have a live. This is not the 1 o'clock or 7 o'clock show that I was talking about earlier. Prospect and Kawhi I can't catch him. And I'll also have on Phantom Zone. So that'll be for real. Now DeAndre Jordan will be a insight as far as the background music. I'm assuming more developers are going to mute that as I actually dive into the video here. ESPN Tony guys as well. I'll pull up the stream as well for what you guys see. Cool. For the past few years, so I know. So as I was saying before, there we go. Okay, I don't have the crazy echo anymore. Now it's like triple. Yeah. Working on it, guys. Sometimes this happens with live shows. Are you still getting the echo? I see what was happening. I had the stream open in the background and the desktop audio was pulling. Let me know if that fixed it, and we'll dive in. I show no desktop audio going, so should be good. All right. Elliot says we're good. Cool. All right. So, once more. Ari Timken of Phantom, formerly of ESPN San Antonio. He will be on with us at 1 o'clock. He'll be on with us at 1 o'clock to talk, help us talk in a little bit of the general NBA free agency sense. And he is also, he's our Mavericks guy, but he's also huge NBA fan, nerd in general. So we'll have a lot of great stuff to talk there. With Ari, we'll have obviously the Kawhi Leonard situation. That's going to be traded. The Spurs know that they can't repair that relationship anymore. The only question is where he ends up and what they get in return for him. Yes, so for the Mavericks sense, the reason for this little impromptu video, it looks like the Mavericks are going to get DeAndre Jordan. Now, we've been here before, but it's not exactly the same situation this time. Now, 2015, the Great Emoji War was raged and ended up being DeAndre Jordan recanting his word, his verbal commitment to the Mavericks to sign a max deal with the Clippers. And as a result, it's actually kind of interesting that we were attempting to acquire him in the last year of that deal, because it's a stopgap that makes sense in that regard. And his rebounding and shot blocking and lob threat would help this young team. But he's 29 years old, has no offensive game. I'm not really interested in a long-term commitment to him. I think 2 years would be all right, 1 to 2 years. And it sounds like it's kind of interesting how this worked out. They were trying to make a trade for him with the Clippers, and that would have taken on the last year of his deal, which I think was set to pay him like just over $24 million. And when they couldn't reach a deal, namely because the Clippers were hesitant on taking Wes Matthews back in the deal, Jordan instead opted out. And it seems like there was, I guess, kind of like a handshake agreement to basically say, all right, man, well, I'll opt out, but you still got to pay me like that same situation. So Dallas is giving him a 1-year deal worth just over $24 million. I got to say, I actually like that for the thing. I think it's a good stopgap. I don't like the idea of committing huge money to him like 3-4 years. God, not 5 years. I was talking about this. Yeah, I see you, Mitch Barnett. Yes. So with DeAndre Jordan, I wasn't thrilled with the idea of giving him a big deal. And when he opted out with the Clippers, that was my fear, is that the Mavericks were going to go throw a ton of money at him. He's already 29 years old. And while his numbers were still good last year for what he does, I didn't like the idea of ultimately having like a 34-year DeAndre Jordan and having to pay him a bunch of money. So going this route, I think it makes sense. It's a perfect stopgap, and it gives them time to assess what they want to do moving forward. Hopefully that's not just sample it for a year and then be like, oh, you know what? No, I do like this. Let's give him a 3 or 4 year deal. I'm hoping they have a little more sense than that. So let's jump here at the chat. Let me run through the guest list here. Shout out Iman, King Busy, Elliot W, Can't Catch Him, Gleh, some dweeb Mitch Barnett. It's my buddy. Yeah, so Iman saying he would rather have Boogie. The thing about DeMarcus Cousins, he's 27, so he is younger. But he's coming off an Achilles tear, which is a really tough injury to come back from. And I'm pretty sure he suffered that injury in, January? I mean, he suffered it pretty late in the year. He was through 48 games when he suffered that injury. So the fact that he was going to be able to really do anything, it wasn't going to be like, all right, here we are, start of the season, here's Boogie. It's going to be, you're paying a ton of money to a guy you don't know how much his ability is going to hold up. Now, thankfully, with him developing an outside shot the last couple of years, he'll still be productive, I think. He's not a guy that has to rely on athleticism. Keyword has to, I guess keywords. But he's still a guy who you probably weren't going to see until like December, even if you signed him. And then it would take 2 months or so of him just kind of trying to get back into the flow of it and feel comfortable on the court again. We saw that basically all of year one for Wes Matthews with the Mavericks. And Kobe, as great as he is, obviously he suffered his injury, his Achilles tear later in his career. but he took a noticeable step back, I think, after that injury. And I didn't feel comfortable if we were talking about committing. If it was like a 2-year deal with a player option for Boogie, I didn't feel comfortable with that at all. I also never thought the fit made sense for Boogie to come to Dallas because given his injury now and his age and the fact that he has never even played in the playoffs, whether it was with the Kings or him getting hurt for the Pelicans, you know, he was with them basically a year and a half, and they didn't make it the first year because they acquired him late and were already out of the picture. And then, well, not out of the picture, but they struggled early on when they first acquired him. So between that and then flashing forward to this year, getting hurt before the playoffs, he still never played a playoff game. And it doesn't make sense for him to come to a rebuilding Dallas team, although Dallas doesn't seem to think they're rebuilding as much, and they're going to try and make the playoffs this year. I just feel like for Boogie, other options made sense, namely sticking with the Pelicans. I think that's what's best for him, and I think that's probably what he does. If he does leave, maybe he gets lured by like the Lakers or something like that, but we'll have to see. So let's see here. Let me take some questions here. Yeah, Elliot mentioning Doug McDermott moved on. That was a little bit of a bummer for the Mavericks. He fit in really well here after they acquired him in that trade last year. I like Dougie McBuckets a lot. I'm also being from Oklahoma, I'm also a Thunder fan, and so I saw him there a little bit. And honestly, when the Mavericks acquired him, I wasn't that excited because he didn't work out nearly as well in OKC as I thought he would. And so I was kind of lukewarm on the idea because I had seen Dallas bring in three-point shooters like Anthony Morrow, and also who was good for the Thunder eventually. Who was another one? Wayne Ellington. Like, bring in guys like that and them not really make much of an impact or even really play consistent minutes. But to Doug's credit, he did play very well with the Mavericks when he came over, and Carlisle seemed to like him. I like the guy. I do. I was actually kind of hoping Dallas could re-sign him. It just ends up that that's not going to happen because Indiana, the Pacers, threw a very nice deal at him. I think it was like 3 for $22, and it was fully guaranteed. I mean, for McDermott and how much he's bounced around in the league already, you got to take that. Dallas, that's not a deal for Dallas to try and out-duel. Like, it doesn't make sense. So it's a bummer to miss out on him. You definitely need three-point shooting, especially when you look at our backcourt. Dennis isn't a prolific three-point shooter by any means. Luka could become one eventually, but right now he's not a great three-point shooter. I think he shot like 31, 32% last year in international play. So that'll be something they'll have to address, is three-point shooting. But in the meantime, the Mavericks are going to be a lot more exciting to watch next year, I think. The highlights of last year were always anything Dennis Smith did. And now you have Dennis Smith doing that, plus Luka Doncic, who I think has a better feel for playmaking, even though he doesn't have near the athleticism. I think he has fantastic vision and passing ability, and I think Luka's going to really add another dimension of that. You have two guys who can play with the ball and really make all of their teammates better. And now you got, with DeAndre, you have a lob threat, which, what was the last time? We had 1 year in 2015, I believe, when we had Brandon Wright and Tyson Chandler. That was a really fun team to watch, even though the whole thing came unglued after the Rondo trade. But that was the last time we had like a true lob threat, where it was like, dude, just drive the lane and just toss it up there, and one of those dudes is just going to, crank it back and just dive it down. Very, very nice. I think Dallas will be a much more exciting team to watch next year. I don't know necessarily that they are a playoff team as of yet. They need to address a couple more things, but we'll see. With Dallas, I just hope that they're not being too aggressive too early and trying to get back into the playoffs, because you can end up in it's basically like purgatory, where you're caught in the middle, where you're either just making the playoffs. I mean, look at Dallas post-title. How many times have they revamped the team, and yet they haven't gotten out of the first round yet? The closest they got was 2014, pushing the Spurs to 7 games. And that's purgatory, man. And I'm really hoping they're not going, okay, we're done with this rebuild. We got our 2 lottery guys. We're going pedal to the metal now, and everything else be damned. Because you don't want to be caught in that purgatory, man. You want to have one more, I would say ideally one more year of getting another high-end prospect in the draft. But Dallas seems to think that the outlook right now for next year's draft class isn't super strong, and as a result, they've just decided, nope, you know what, we want to go all in now, so let's see what we can build. We can retool around these guys now that we have a couple foundational pieces. So let's see here, I'm looking through the comments again. Yeah, Mr. Wright talking about Mavericks tanking to keep their 2019 pick. Yeah, that's a top 5 protected pick. There are protections that stretch up to 5 years, but after I think 2 years, it goes only to a top 3 protected. I would like the idea of that. Like I said, I think ideally they need one more high-end prospect to kind of do that. But I don't think that that's that doesn't appear to be their thinking. They're going to go for it as is, and Carlisle even said draft night after they had gotten Luka that they really weren't concerned with the draft moving forward. They care more about what they can build around it now instead of potential prospects. And historically, that has been Dallas's philosophy for a while. Galeh, will the Mavericks re-sign DeAndre after this year? There are a lot of questions on that, I think. Namely, how he does with the Mavericks, how well he fits, if he can stay healthy. But even if they do re-sign him, I would say re-sign him 2 years, and if you can get a team option, maybe. I don't love DeAndre as a long-term thing. I really don't. I would say the most I would have been willing to be comfortable with, I guess, would be a better way to put it. The longest contract I would have been comfortable with DeAndre Jordan would have been a 3-year deal, and that would be like with a team option on the 3rd year. So we'll see what they do for that. Sad for Nerlens Noel. I'm not, man. I think Nerlens has some bad advisors around him that told him he's worth a lot more than he is in today's NBA. I will never understand how that guy turned down 5 years and $70 million from the Mavericks. I mean, just the security alone of it. You know, he takes the mid-level exception, not even starter minutes for it, so he got paid less than a standard mid-level exception, or sorry, qualifying offer, that's what I mean to say. Qualifying offer, not even a starter's qualifying offer money. It was a decline in pay for him last year from the year before that, the last year of his rookie deal. And he still did not produce. I mean, in the first game, he looked electric, and I really was thinking, okay, he's going all in on himself, and maybe he can get a better deal, but I don't know. Maybe he'll just get a similar deal elsewhere. And instead, I think what we saw was the kind of the pressure got to him. I think he started kind of with Nerlens, what the word is that he does in practice like what's asked of him, but he's never putting in the extra work. And then on top of that, in games, he has a tendency, especially last year, to kind of just start freelancing. He'll start going for the block or something like that instead of sticking to his defensive assignment, and that just drove Carlisle insane, which is why you started seeing all these did not play coaches' decisions racking up for Nerlens, and then you had the out of nowhere announcement that he had a thumb injury or something and he was going to have surgery. And then even when he was cleared, it still took a while for him to do anything. And then, of course, you had him, ending his Maverick career on a high note. And by the way, that was not my zinger, unfortunately. That is, I think, Tim McMahon of ESPN who had that. But yeah, Nerlens, man, he was done here. I think he was mentally checked out and didn't care. And I don't know where he's going to end up. There's theoretically still a chance he could be in Dallas, but I don't see it relationship-wise. I don't think it's a healthy fit for either party. Yeah, so Mike Fisher was talking earlier about how Wes Matthews will remain a possible trade candidate today, tomorrow, February, doesn't matter. Like, he's in the last year of his deal. I think he's getting something like $17 million, and he is a tradable asset for them. I don't know if they're going to continue looking to do something with him in free agency, like make him part of a trade, like a sign-in trade or something like that. But he would be an interesting piece to ship out. I know they like him a lot as a locker room guy. He's a good defender, streaky three-point shooter, but I still think he could help these young guys, and I think for that reason Dallas probably hangs on to him, at least for the time being. I'll be curious to see, though, because I don't know what you could really get for him right now unless you're just trying to balance out the money of the trade and throw him in there. That's like what the deal was going to be with the Clipper situation and DeAndre. It just didn't work out. Did Salah really go to the Rockets? I've not seen anything on if Salah went to the Rockets, but I don't know. I mean, Salah Mejri, like, he's a good hustle guy. He can give you some rim protection. But, man, in the video I did the other day, I took a look at, like, his stats and everything, and the most minutes he's ever played in a season per game is 12.4 minutes. His averages are like 4 rebounds, 4.4 rebounds, and 3.5 points last year. I mean, if you're talking about a bench guy, yeah, I don't mind him. He's a decent bench guy, but I know he kind of butts heads with Carlisle every now and then. I think it was last year, when Salah said something stupid on the court to like an opposing player or something, and even Carlisle was like, "What are you talking about? You have 2 points. Like, sit your ass down." Like, that was so amazing, because I think Mejri definitely has like kind of a cockiness to him, which generally you like, right? You like when you have a guy who's confident, but it is kind of an interesting thing where you wonder in that regard, like, okay, well, if even his coach is annoyed, you know, you don't have to be a high point production guy to be allowed to talk smack. But it's just kind of funny, because I think even Carlisle is just a little exacerbated by the whole process and situation with him. Let's see. Shout out Brian Cruz. Shout out Jamie A. Aponte Ortiz. Took a guess at that. Question about the draft pick we traded. Top 5 protected means if we fall out of the top 5, goes to Atlanta. Yes, it does. If the Mavericks end up with the 6th pick next year, that means it's not the Mavericks' pick, it's Atlanta's pick. The Mavericks have to be in the top 5 to keep that pick for at least one more year. And the thing with that, I don't think that's going to happen. I think with the moves they've made already, they are not going to be a bottom 5 team. So unless the ping pong balls really fall their way and the Mavericks don't make the playoffs, which the latter of that I think is still certainly a possibility, then we'll see. I think the Mavericks probably, what were they, 24 wins last year? I think between the drafting of Doncic and now the acquisition of DeAndre Jordan, I think they're somewhere in the mid-30s right now, mid to like 35 to 38, 9 games. It's not enough for the playoffs yet. I think they're going to have to address their outside shooting. Their shooting situation is not great. Wes Matthews is your 3-point shooter. JJ Barea is a nice outside shooter, but like I said, the 2 main guys that are going to be running your offense, Dennis Smith and Luka Doncic, neither of them are great 3-point shooters. So they're going to have to address that, especially now with McDermott leaving. Let's see. Questionable knees at that. Shout out Durango 701. Let's see here. If you guys got a question, hit me with the tag. In that tag, the Dallas prospect, and it'll help catch my eye a little bit. Otherwise, I'm just kind of glancing and sifting through a list trying to hit questions. I was trying to answer whatever questions you guys throw my way, unless it's Mitch and he's still asking, in which case it'll be a terrible, unrelated question. Let's see. If the Mavs get their wits together and drop Yogi's cap hold, then cut Kyle Collinsworth's non-guarantee, who would you like the Mavs to get? Rodney Hood would be very interesting. I think Rodney Hood's better than what we saw, obviously, with his performance in Cleveland. I think that whole situation in Cleveland just kind of, the pressure got to all those guys, because you had guys who had a lot of playoff experience suddenly crumbling, like George Hill, Rodney Hood. Oscar saying no, they're not going to go after DeMarcus Cousins. DeMarcus Cousins is either going to stay with the Pelicans or he's going to look to like LA. It sounds like those are the only 2 he's considering right now. Jalen Brunson, 40% 3-point shooter. Yes, Jalen Brunson is another draft pick of theirs I really liked. I think he was a steal in early round 2. I think he'll be your backup point guard moving forward to the future, but let's see how many minutes he gets early on, because he's, Dennis Smith is your starting point guard. You also still got J.J. Barea, so I don't know. I heard that there was talk that they were interested, and I've heard this since they traded him last year, that Devin Harris could be coming back. But at some point, how many 6'2" combo guards do you really want to, accumulate? You gotta. I think Devin Harris, although he'd be a great mentor and locker room guy, I don't think he's exactly what they need at this point. I'd rather have more depth at small forward or just bigger guards in general. Julius Randle, that one would certainly interest me. I don't think the Mavericks are super high on him for whatever reason, though. I had him in one of my, I think it was my first video breakdown I did of potential Mavericks. I listed it as center. I know Randall's not a center, so really it's more like a front court option. I don't know why I did quotations. It's obviously front court. But I think Julius Randle would help, but there are question marks surrounding him. He's got ties to the city of Dallas, so in that regard, I like it. I don't know if that's going to be the case, though, and I don't know what money it would take to get him. So we'll have to see. Let's see. Zoya is a lot younger, and he could explode out of Orlando like many others. Yeah, admittedly, Ranger Skin 669. I'm not Rangers King. Sorry. I'm not super up to date on him, and generally Orlando as a rule, not as a rule, just in general. But I'll have to take a look at him. I'll take a look and I'll let you know what I think in a future video. Yeah, King Busy on Devin Harris. Yes, I agree. I don't love the idea of bringing him back, especially now if they're in the mode of trying to compete. Hope the Mavs could be part of a 3-team trade to get us back player, maybe Randall. Yeah, that would be interesting. I would want to know what we have to figure out with that, because our most tradable assets right now, I mean, Wes Matthews is certainly one of them. I don't know beyond that, like Kleber, maybe? Kenneth Fareed. That's a big contract to bring back. I like it for a short-term kind of investment, but I don't know financially. The only way that works is if you're shipping out Wes and probably Dwight. I want to say Fareed is somewhere around 19, 20 million. I guess I can look that up real quick. How can a 45, 40, 90 center on low volume be holding the team back? 45, 40, 90. I'm thinking that's a comment with a conversation with someone else as opposed to a question of me, because I'm not sure who Rangers King is referring to. Dallas Prospect. When do you think we could possibly bring in help with 3-point shooting? Oh, who do I think we could bring in? Depends on what kind of money we're looking to spend, honestly. Hood would be interesting. I agree with that. Let me take a look at how things have shaped up a little bit. That could be a question when I come on live again at 1, which is not that far off, with Innie and Duca. That might be a good question for him. He's got a really good scope on all the outside options for that. Seth Curry. I absolutely want to keep Seth Curry. And you know what? Because of him not playing at all last year, I think you could actually do it for a pretty affordable deal. Seth Curry is absolutely someone I want to bring back. That gives you certainly 3-point shooting. I loved what I saw from him 2 seasons ago. Obviously, we didn't get to see him at all last year because of his stress fracture or stress reaction, whatever it was in his leg. Van Fleet, not bad, not bad. Oh, David West. Gotcha. David Wee, sorry. Not West. Gotcha. Let's see. Aaron Gordon. I like what he can bring to the table. I don't know. I've never heard much tying the Mavs of significant interest to him. I think last year around the deadline there was some speculation on that, but it wasn't a whole lot, really. It was kind of like a thrown out there possibility, but I never saw any real heat regarding like the likelihood of it. Could we restructure Wesley's contract to clear cap room? If you're restructuring, I don't know how much you get restructured deals in the NBA. I think that's more of an NFL thing. Because when you restructure, the idea is you're pushing back guaranteed money. And Wes is on the last year of his deal anyway, so I don't think that's an option. Aaron Aflalo. Aaron Aflalo, he's got some mileage on him now. I don't know. I haven't looked at him in a while. Like I said, another team being from Oklahoma, another team of mine has been the Thunder, and I know they've been chasing him in trades for like 4 or 5 years, and it's never happened. And at this point, I'm just like, I don't know if it's still a guy you want to go after. It'd be like going after Luol Deng at this point, where you're just like, oh, God, the mileage. But, yeah, we'll take a look at that. Like I said, I'll be back on here in a little over an hour with Eni Nduka and Ari Timken. We'll talk some more general NBA free agency development, namely Paul George and OKC, possibility of LeBron leaving. He's in LA right now, but he's actually talking, or at least his representatives are talking with like the 76ers as well. He's talking with the Lakers. Chris Paul resigns. So there's a lot going on here that we can dive into in a bit. But I think that's going to wrap up my time for this. I got a couple things I got to set up before Eni gets over here for the show. So I'm going to put a pin on this for now, guys, and I'll be back here in a bit. If you want, check it out. And until then, remember, every legend was once a prospect. Thanks for watching.